איפה יזמן? לא, הוא אין לו קבלות. איפה יזמן? זה לך משם. מאיפה יזמן דבר? תשאלי אותו איפה המקום. איפה?
Tel Aviv time, which will be a month here of studying Ulpan and then spending another 4 months in Tel Aviv inside a cultural related experience, letting people who do not necessarily want to spend the whole 5 months here in Arad enjoy the auspices of the Institute and get the experience that is available for them in Tel Aviv. You will meet our students, 15 of them, most, well, with the exception of one Brit, all Americans this time. You will, they're maybe a little older than you guys because they graduated from, all of them are graduates of universities, some of them are a little older, up to their late 20s, early 30s. They're relatively new, so they're now in the adjustment phase. They're past the how do you call it, the shock of the beginning, but they're not yet like really built into the routine of the program. So you will see that they're now like checking, what have I done, where have I come, why did I do this, etc. After 3 weeks of Ulpan studies, usually that's the frustrating stage, but you should encourage them. It's a pleasure for me to be meeting with a group like you guys who chose to spend your mission here in the Negev because it's not a given. I mean, people who ask Jewish students, when Jewish students tell people, Israelis too, that they came to Israel and spent 5 months in Arad, the first reaction is, why Arad? And I will be more than happy to meet with you guys towards the end of your mission and to give you some of my answers of why Arad. And I think there are some very good practical answers and also some very, very good ideological answers. And I have a feeling that you guys are exactly the target crowd who will understand exactly what I'm talking about, especially after the experience that's waiting for you.
The next few hundred years, after about 700, we have a series of people who we call the classic prophets or the classical prophets. There are people who have books named after them in the second part of the Bible. They're a group of extraordinary thinkers who come forward with a series of ideas. These ideas will ultimately, I would argue, change the way that people think. I want to do an introduction to them. I want someone to introduce them. I want to use someone to introduce them. The person I want to introduce them to is a man who died a generation back, and who was one of the greatest Jewish thinkers of the 20th century and spent much of his life studying and teaching the prophets. His name is Avraham Yeshua Heschel. Does anyone have the name?
I went to the school.
Do you know about it?
Yeah, all about it.
Great, terrific. So you should spread the word. Do you want to say anything about him before I introduce him specifically with relation to the prophets?
I mean, he was very involved with social justice. He was one of the, he was a major participant in the civil rights movement in the 60s.
Of course, right near the end of his life.
Yeah.
Right near the end of his life.
March with Dr. King.
Absolutely, March with Dr. King, with Martin Luther King, absolutely. And he's a very, very important player. But I want to firstly talk about him as a scholar and a teacher. Great scholar and teacher. Came from Eastern Europe and went to the Western world and came to America and started writing. He wrote a whole series of books which are extremely important, I think very rather wonderful books. But his major academic interest, of all the things he ever learned and studied in his life, was the prophets. And he did one of the deepest examinations that's ever been done of the prophets. There's a big, in English, it's a big 2-volume work called The Prophets. And what he does in that book is he takes each of the prophets, one by one. He tries to understand their ideas and their time and and their messages and this, that, and the other. But before he gets to them, he has a series of introductory chapters, and one of the introductory chapters is called "What manner of man is the prophet? What sort of a person is the prophet?"
And one goal I have is to distance myself from home. This is difficult for me, and I love to travel, and I do, and I also have to say, I don't know if this is cheesy, but I do love like America. I like American culture a lot, and a lot of people don't, and they try and, you know, say for whatever political reasons or whatever else, try and distance themselves from it. But I think that America is one of the greatest places to live in the world, and it's a really unique place, and I love it. And frankly, my little comfortable culture of Vermont, I love Vermont, and you know, I will miss it. But I do want to, while I'm here, in order to follow through on some of these other expectations and goals that I've highlighted, be able to successfully distance myself from those things, and from some of the comforts, and, you know, of everybody speaking your language, and of drive-through, and, you know, stuff like that. So, and that's cultural distancing from home, and also just like, you know, other things that may be in the back of my mind that I just don't really want to be thinking about while I'm here, both here in Arad and for the longer term, and then worry about them again when I get back, maybe. But so, and then that brings me to this other goal of bringing the experiences that I accumulate while I'm here, and bring them back to Burlington. So when I return to Burlington as a super senior, to take, you know, whatever experiences I get out of this, and try and retain them and remember them and abide by them in my daily life back in Vermont. I think that's really important, and that's one of the reasons that I love traveling. I'm tremendously fortunate in that I've had great opportunities to travel to places and learn from those experiences, and I think that's one of the most important things for me here.
ללא רגשות אשם ובלי אבל